What's up, everyone? It's Joey Bliss Response, and welcome to the latest episode of Sound and Structure. Today I'm talking with Jamaica Suk, a very exciting techno producer based out of Berlin. Let's get right into it.
Yeah. So hi, Jamaica. Tell me what's going on in your world.
Well, I'm juggling a few projects and like always, mostly music stuff. I'm finishing some new tracks and pretty excited to finalize some new EPs. And I have also recently been finishing music for other types of genres, which is exciting. So it's kind of cool to take a break from techno and record some more experimental stuff. So that's been pretty cool. And then recently I finished making music for a commercial.
Okay. What kind of commercial?
It's a commercial for DM.
Oh, nice.
So when it's released, I can tell you more about it.
I'm really curious what you did for that. What other genres are you exploring? Is this like the stuff you did for Feral Note, or?
Oh yeah. So I've been recording some more experimental / ambient music, kind of like the 30-minute composition I composed for Feral Note. Mm-hmm. So I have actually a lot more material in that style, and I'm continuing to expand on it. It's really cool to come in and record that type of music because it's very like, I don't know, it feels like more meditative, and it's kind of like going to do like meditation.
I totally feel that. What's the process behind recording that material?
So the process always depends on my deadlines.
Okay. So
if I do not put a deadline on myself for a specific track or a specific project, I can feel like I'm just recording endlessly. And it's this kind of jam that's going on and on and on until I'm tired and need to drink water or something.
Do you do like a lot of live multi-tracking, or are you recording track by track overdubbing? Like, what's that aspect of it?
So I prefer to record things individually, one by one. So it takes much longer to finish tracks.
How would you say the production is different on this kind of stuff versus your techno stuff?
My experimental and ambient music is all based around jams. Mm-hmm. And I go back in and listen to these long takes and pick what I think is the best parts of it. And then I can go ahead and sculpt the other melodies or other sounds around my favorite like part of the long recording or the jam.
So you have new 12 inches and a new release in this ambient zone, I guess. Where are they coming out?
So I'll have some EPs coming out on Gradient, and I'm pretty excited about that because we took a little bit of a pause as far as releasing vinyl on my label, which is, it's too bad, but I think it's been quite common for this past year. So I'm also kind of happy this year's almost over. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little stressful, but I'm ready for the next thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like you've been playing a lot, so it's been quite nice in a way, I bet.
Yeah, definitely.
Your last 12-inch was Whispers on Gradient, correct? So you have two new ones. One is for Gradient, and what's the other one?
So the other one is something I can't speak about yet.
Okay.
Hopefully it'll be announced in the beginning of next year.
Tell me what's in your studio setup right now. I see an Evolver, I see a Modular.
Oh yeah, so I have a Prophet 12 by Dave Smith, the desktop module. I have an Evolver. Oh yeah, you can see that there. Let's see. And I have the Erica Synth Techno system, my own Eurorack in an IntelliGel case, and analog rhythm, an Octatrack, and here is a Waldorf synth.
The Iridium. Yeah.
1 second. So this is from my studio mate.
Okay.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. We have some more gear here. And have an electric upright bass there.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah, and a bunch of pedals. They're kind of all over. So let's see over here. H9. Love that pedal. This TR9 I'm using almost every session. Of course, I wish I had the original, but it's too expensive.
Me too.
So, yeah.
They're crazy expensive now. I looked the other day because I wanted one, and they're like $5,000 now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just too much.
I don't think they're worth that. You know, maybe 2 I would understand, but let me ask you, have you ever used, I remember you saying you were a jazz bassist, and I see you have the electric upright. Do you use it on the techno stuff ever?
I do. And I also have 4 other bass guitars in Berlin. 2 are at home, 2 are here in the studio, and I prefer to play an electric bass guitar through all of my pedals, which are like scattered all over the floor here, and through a bass amp, which has like 4 tubes in the preamp. So I'll turn that on and warm it up, wait for a bit, and then play my bass through a bunch of delay also, like the DL4 pedal is cool for live looping and stuff. And the Modular X is also really cool. It sounds amazing on bass guitar and guitar. But I prefer using an electric bass for techno and for other types of music that I write. The electric upright bass is really cool, but you know, since it's fretless, it's a bit of a learning curve.
You're not used to fretless?
I prefer to play with frets. So I prefer my Fender Jazz bass, which is fretted. And then I have a 5-string bass, which is a modulus bass. And it has spalted babinga wood and a low C string instead of a higher string. And it has EMG pickups. And yeah, that's my favorite studio recording bass, but it has frets. So just, you know, after playing in different projects and different bands and stuff, just being able to feel the frets without looking is really, really cool. I mean, of course I use my ear with the fretless, but it's a bit different.
Yeah, I totally understand. If you want some fretless inspiration, I can recommend, maybe you already know, the band Japan. their bass player Mick Karn is a genius, and he plays fretless, and he's done stuff for like he's done stuff with Peter Murphy, Gary Newman. He died quite recently, like a year or two ago even, but check them out if you don't know him.
Cool.
It's like really it's like late 70s, early 80s, kind of the dawn of new romantic, like Duran Duran. But before that, before New Wave, they were kind of the prototype, and with the look and everything, all the makeup and the music is just incredible. Like, you know, David Sylvian, have you heard of him?
Yeah.
He was the singer.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, really
Nice.
amazing. What's getting heavy use in your studio right now?
So I love using the Prophet by Dave Smith. I'm using that almost every session with the Dope for Dark Time sequencer.
Mm.
So the Dope for Dark Time sequencer is one of my favorite sequencers. And it also sounds good through the Mono Evolver by Dave Smith.
You use the Mono Evolver to process the Prophet, you mean?
No, but I'll use both of those synthesizers. So through the Dark Time
Okay, I understand.
by Doppler.
Yeah. Yeah, those are both amazing. I love the Evolver series. What did you use on Steel Rose?
So I actually used the Doppler Dark Time sequencer, and I used a melody from the Mono Evolver, and the samples were given to me by the geologist from the museum, who recorded the sounds of stones and other things from the Ruhr area.
Okay.
So those samples were given to all of the producers who released on this Stone Techno series, and I then processed them in the studio. So I did a lot of processing. I used a bunch of pedals like the Modular X, the Rat Distortion pedal, H9 pedal.
Awesome. I really like that track. I was just listening to it and the ambient stuff before we got on the call.
Cool.
Do you do a lot of, do you use a lot of field recording sampling type stuff, or was it just for this track?
It was just for this track.
Okay. So everything else is studio made, pretty much.
Yeah, everything else is studio made. I record and process and use all my own samples. So it's quite rare for me to use samples from any other source. So this Steel Rose track was a bit of a challenge for me as far as using samples that were pre-recorded, but it was also quite inspiring. And after I processed the samples that I chose, I cut them up and I put them in the Octatrack and then just jammed with that. But the kick and some of the hats were recorded with other gear. So you were able to implement some pieces, like some fundamental pieces from your studio, like a kick or something.
That's cool. That's an interesting concept. I like to bring in some sounds like that on my own stuff, like my own field recordings, just that I make with my Zoom of whatever, like the forest or, you know, the construction outside the window. It's always good to bring like a different vibe. I feel like when you capture that, the energy of that comes to the music in a different way than all the electronics.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, that's really cool that you're doing that in your tracks. I think it totally adds a different element, like you said.
Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but I just like to keep options open. I want to take it back a bit. When did you first start making electronic music, and what was your first piece of equipment?
I first started making electronic music in 2008.
Mm-hmm.
And my first piece of equipment was a bass guitar.
Okay, but electronic equipment.
Yeah, for electronic equipment, I had this Korg synthesizer. It's like this large, and it has this really crappy vocoder.
Oh, the microcorg.
The micro Korg, sorry, crappy but amazing. Like
Yeah, that was
worked.
my first as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think it was a lot of people's first. It was so cheap and it was cool. I mean, it sounds great. So
Yeah, definitely. It sounded really cool. I enjoyed going through the presets, and it was super entertaining. I did not use the microphone so often. What about you?
I mean, I definitely played around with it, but I'm not a vocoder type of guy. So,
Yeah. So, yeah, I guess you have to be really into the vocoder to like that aspect of this.
I mean, that was all I had for like, I don't know, a couple of years. So it was just fun to play with and do literally anything with because it was all new. It was like, wow, this sounds amazing. You know, like literally anything you did.
Totally. I can relate.
Yeah. Is there anything on your list that you want these days you're looking at?
Oh, definitely. I mean, there's always things that I'm looking at. But at the moment, I'm trying not to buy anything. So I know it sounds weird, especially for someone like me who loves to sell old gear and buy new gear. I used to be frequent on eBay Kleinanzeigen, but now it's been I've been in a different headspace. I just want to get to know all the gear that I have, and especially with the modular stuff, because it can be I don't know. I feel like I was continuing to buy so many modules, and it was getting to the point where it was taking more time to learn about each module. And I like to have a little bit of space in between each purchase. Now that I'm in this headspace, so that's pretty cool. But if I were to buy something tomorrow, I would like to buy the Prophet X synthesizer.
So you're a big Dave Smith fan.
Yeah.
His stuff is awesome.
Yeah.
Before I moved here, I had the Paul Evolver and I sold it to help fund moving here, and I missed that one a lot. So
Yeah.
I feel you.
Yeah, and I'm sorry.
You go.
And the other gear that I would like to invest in is more rack mount gear. So some compressors and some EQs and basically some things to fill up my desk with. We have some holes here, so I think some more tools to process drums would be really cool, or to even help with mixing and mastering of tracks. Do you have any favorite compressors or EQs?
I actually don't do any outboard mixing. Shocker.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I have like a Manly preamp that I bought for doing vocals years ago. Now I just use it for synths. But it's like a stereo preamp with a 2-band passive EQ and a limiter. But yeah, I just use it for synths, and my kick drum pretty much always goes through it. But other than that, I've never gotten into the outboard thing. I mean, my modular is like a giant outboard system anyway. It has compression, EQ, all that. So a lot of the processing happens there. But I still use Ableton like a giant mixing console. And that's what I wanted to ask you is, what are your mixing tools in the box?
So in the box, I am using pretty basic stuff. I like to use the isotope EQs, and I'm also using the EQ from Ableton quite frequently, the EQ8. And I use some different compressors, a lot of Waves plugins, and I like to use some different reverbs. I'll use the Eventide stuff, But for me, the Eventide stuff sounds better in an outboard pedal, for example. But I guess it's always like that. But everything inside Ableton that I'm using is pretty basic. I also like to use the Rough Rider compressor by Audio Damage. That's a pretty cool one.
Solid one. I think with the Eventide thing, there's always a compromise that has to be made in the computer to not use full CPU. So when you have the pedal, the entire processing power is dedicated to the sound, and I think that has an effect, as well as, you know, converters and gain staging, whatever else. But that would be my guess as to why the pedal sounds better. I used to have the Eventide DSP 4000 rack, and that thing was incredible sounding. Like
Cool.
digital silk you could coat your tracks in.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I would love to have one of those again, the H9000 or any of them.
Yeah,
if you're going to get outboard, get one of those.
Okay, cool. That's good to hear.
Yeah. You could like play anything through it, like the shittiest Casio keyboard, and it sounded like $1 million.
Cool.
Yeah,
that's super cool. I bought the VST from Eventide of this, but it's not as exciting for me. But I'm really like a more hands-on person. I like to sculpt my sounds outside of the box as, I guess, as much as I can before recording. So that's really important for me. So if it's coming from the Euro rack, I try to get the sound to almost to exactly to what I like before recording. But, you know, there's a lot of frequencies and a lot of noise that that gets recorded when you record stuff from modules and from the Euro rack. So then I'll do a lot of EQing in the box and compressing, but I try not to do too much. I mean, I don't want to over compress anything.
I'm with you on that. I also try to get it right before it even hits the computer. I think that just makes the whole mix easier if the sounds are already basically mixed. What's in your system?
So right now, here I can show you. So I have this preamp that I really love by CG Products. This sounds really good on bass. Actually, I have two of them because it sounds so good. So I can put drums or anything through there, like a kick drum, bass, or guitar. And I like this sequencer here, the Varigate 4. I really love this delay by Make Noise, the Sound Hack Mimeophone.
Yeah, that thing's incredible.
Okay, that one's really cool. I just got this Happy Nerding FX8 XL. Just pretty cool. And yeah, it's just some basic stuff. The Mutant Brain is really useful.
Yeah, is that the Dinkies Tycho under there?
Yeah, that is.
How do you like that thing? I've never actually used it.
It's pretty cool. Sometimes it's kind of random. Okay. So, but it's pretty cool. It's still here. I haven't sold it. So that's a good sign.
How long has it been there, though?
1 year.
Okay, that's a long time.
That's a long time. That's like record breaking for me. Let's see what else. Oh yeah, the Manus is here.
Great one.
Similis. Yeah, that one's pretty cool. And I really like this Clep Diaz. I don't know if you've tried it by Noise Engineering.
It's like a modulator, right?
Yeah, it's like a modulator, and it has it does have a sequencer inside of it, but I'm using it for its LFO and modulation.
Cool. I think I tried it at their office once, a long time ago. But I don't buy so much new stuff these days.
Oh, you too.
Yeah, well, I used to be like you and be ruthless with buying and selling on Craigslist and on Kleinanzeigen, even when I got here. And especially with Craigslist in New York, I used to just buy whatever keyboard and then just flip it on eBay for more money. And then that's how I acquired a lot of gear, just like progressively upgrading. But then I encountered this problem that I was like, oh, maybe I should have kept that one thing, but like 50 times over, you know? Because if you're going through stuff that fast, I'm talking like, a month with this piece, a month with that piece, you're never getting the real juice out of it. You're just scratching the surface. So, I mean, even last night, like I have a Virus TI and I've had it for years. It was my only synth for like 5 years before I got into modular synths. And then I sold it when I got into modular. I got it again. And I was just using it last night. And mind you, it was my only synth for 5 years. And I heard some shit out of it last night that I had never heard before. So there's so much you can do with this stuff. I'm trying not to buy new things. I haven't been for a while, except for the stuff that I have to review on YouTube these days. I don't buy new stuff because I'm really overwhelmed.
Oh yeah. Well, you have a lot of gear. I know you have a huge Hero rack, a huge like Doper
It's right there.
monster case.
Yeah, actually, this patch you're looking at, I used every single cable to demonstrate that matrix mixer.
Oh
So
wow.
I'm literally out of cables. I mean, there's a couple there, but most of them.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was quite the triumph for the matrix mixer, but it's gonna take like 3 hours to unpatch.
Oh cool. I can't wait to check out that video when it's out.
I mean, I just posted it, so it's up there. But it's like 30 minutes of crazy noise. There's no dance music. It's like
Perfect.
dark ambient, generative weirdness.
Oh, that's cool. I like dark ambient stuff a lot. I tend to like writing darker stuff when it comes to I don't know, like pads or melodies or just music in general. I like more melancholic stuff. Not all of my stuff sounds like that because I do enjoy incorporating contrast. If there's something really heavy, then I like also something a little bit light to kind of balance those things out. But dark ambient music, I'm a big fan of, and I love noise music. I love Mersbo, and I love Son-O. I love this like really doomy, sludgy guitar. Like the Melvins is also really cool, and Neurosis. That's one of my favorite bands. Actually, they're from like Bay Area, kind of the area where I'm from.
I've heard of them.
Yeah, you might like them. Neurosis.
I'll check them out. I recently got an 8-string guitar, so I was into that. The phase kind of passed already, but there was a good 6 months this year where I was playing 8-string all the time.
Nice.
And getting like I actually bought tickets to see Meshuggah.
Oh,
It got fucking. It was supposed to be next month, and it's rescheduled till May.
that's cool. I was just gonna ask if you like Meshuggah, and you bought tickets. Super
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, I tuned my guitar just like theirs, the F, whatever tuning they have. Yeah, I like them.
Yeah, I love them. They do have a crazy tuning. Where were they gonna play? In Berlin.
Let me look at the ticket. It was at Columbia Hall, December 12th, but now it's moved to May, so maybe you could still get tickets.
Cool.
Yeah,
I
look
would
into
love-
it.
Yeah, I'll look into that for sure.
But yeah, I mean, I even used it on this album I just did called Reconstitution. There's a lot of 8 and 6-string guitar there. I also have this 6-string BC Rich from the 80s. It's called the Eagle. It's pretty unique looking, but not like a Warlock type of look. It's more like a standard guitar type of look, but with a bit of flair. And yeah, I was really into that for a minute. the heavy guitar shit.
Cool.
So, I feel you on that. What are your electronic influences?
For my electronic influences, I mean, I love like a lot of the classic techno artists. I mean, Surgeon and Jeff Mills, of course, Planetary Assault Systems, Luke Slater. He's one of my favorites. And there's literally tons of artists I could continue naming and going on and on and on. But I feel like with techno now and with its evolution and with so many new producers releasing these days, it's a really exciting time because there's a lot of artists to research now and to hear. So I generally don't like to say that only these artists were my biggest influences because they were around for the longest. Do you know what I mean?
Totally.
So I also get inspired by whatever music I love at the moment, or like during this day or during this DJ set. So it's just changing so much, you know. It's also like that for bands for me. I mean, of course, I have my staple bands that I love, but I'm always alternating my favorites. And like also for my playlists and DJ sets, I just can't listen to the same artists all the time. So
I feel that. Who's really cool for you this week?
So this week I love an artist called Audio Units. I will play music from them on the weekend. And the new EP from Decca is pretty cool.
I know neither of those, so I'll check them out.
Yeah, and there's a lot more actually, but that's what I'm excited about now in this minute.
It's funny you mentioned Luke Slater, Mills, and Surgeon because that's what I've been listening to for the past few weeks. I went in, like the past 2 years, I went in this phase of like, all right, I'm bored of techno, and I made a couple like noisy albums with almost no dance music, and then in the last 2 weeks, suddenly I was like, oh, I really love techno again, and then so now I've been making it all and just listening to them and like really enjoying it again on another level. It's fun. And yeah, Mills especially is hitting the spot for me right now, and there's so much of it too that I haven't heard. He's really amazing. I think I'll send him a demo.
Yeah, you should. Now's a good time to send out demos for sure.
I gotta finish new stuff.
Oh yeah, I'd love to hear your techno stuff. I mean, you make a lot of different types of music, from like more like noisier stuff, and I mean, you have a broad spectrum, so it'd be cool to hear some of your techno stuff too. I remember seeing your live set at Schneidersladen, and I really enjoyed that. That was probably a couple of years ago now.
I think that was 2019 or 18. But yeah, that was that was when I was still really heavy into the dance music at the moment, so it was it was 2019 because I was playing some stuff that I released on SNTS's label, I remember. Cool. That's cool that you were there. I didn't know you were there.
Yeah, I was there. Yeah, it was really cool. I enjoyed your set a lot, and I wanted to see you play live, but I think, I was not. I haven't been able to. So hopefully I can in the future. Are you playing live sets out, like in Berlin anytime soon? Or?
No, I haven't played live in a long time because of COVID. Like just before COVID hit, I had a live set in Berlin for Electron, like just with their Model Cycles machine, showing it off for the debut. But since then, no, and I don't have I sold I have a Rhythm Mark II, but I had a Mark I that I used for live, and I sold it over the pandemic, so I don't even know what I would play live with right now. So when the time comes, we'll see, but the bookings I have on the table are all DJ sets. So, what about you? Are you
Cool.
going to play live anytime soon? Or mostly
Well,
DJs?
it's mostly DJ sets now, and I played live at Super Booth,
Okay.
so that was pretty cool. And I am going to take the winter time to expand on that set. I mean, obviously not the same set because I don't play the same live set twice, but I'll expand on that concept of a set. So it's with my bass guitar going through my Eurorack, through the CG preamp, and then through a bunch of pedals. And yeah, I'll just practice playing like more like songs. So songs on the bass in between turning a bunch of knobs. So it's pretty difficult to play a live set with so many knobs and then also an instrument. It's kind of challenging.
I feel that. Are you a Square Pusher fan by chance?
Definitely.
Okay. Yeah, he's one of those.
He's amazing. And he has no problem. He just holds the bass, then does his thing. Yeah.
I mean, I think he's using a MIDI pickup. Or a hexaphonic pickup, rather. Have you ever looked into that?
I have. I've looked into MIDI pickups, and I almost purchased a bass guitar with a built-in MIDI device on it.
Mm-hmm.
It's something that the bass player from Little Dragon uses. It's by Ibanez, the Industrial 5, I think.
Okay.
So I almost bought that bass. Yeah, but a pickup would be much easier. That would be
Definitely.
much better.
I wonder about tracking on those. But I have one of those old Roland synth guitars from the 80s, actually. It's called the G707, but I never had the cables or the synth attachment, so I could only use it as a guitar, which is fine because it looks cool, but I never tried that. I'd be curious to hear you play synth bass, but I'm sure you could get some of that vibe with it processed through your modular anyway.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, maybe I'll try the MIDI pickup. I've tried it on a guitar, and it's much more accurate than on a bass. But maybe it was just that model. So because it's hard to register in the lower frequency range. I think it's hard for the pickup to translate that information into MIDI.
I think so as well. I also think there's a lot in the unit you're using. Like, I'm assuming it was a roll-in pickup?
Yeah.
Yeah, like the older units, like the GR30 or 33 or whatever, don't track as well as like the new SY1000 or whatever. So it might be easier with the newer units.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's a good idea. I'm going to check that out for sure.
Let me ask you, so you've been playing music for a long time. What is the worst and or funniest set you've had? Or like the weirdest occurrence on stage?
On stage?
Yeah.
So the funniest set that I've had was at Pornceptual
Great party.
in Berlin, in Altemuza, and it was in the basement. And I remember playing there to a crowd of half naked, half like animal theme. Like it was like an animal theme. So a lot of the guests were dressed like different cats and dogs and foxes and whatnot, but they were also maybe half naked.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember having a pretty long set that night. I think it was maybe 6 or 7 hours. And the funniest thing that that happened was having like so much humidity like develop down in the basement that it basically started just raining, and it was just dripping from the ceiling onto everybody, and if you had a drink it was just pouring into your drink. So it was just becoming pretty intense and extremely hot, and it was so hot I had to like take off my pants and DJ without pants, and my vinyls were starting to not register anymore because of all of the water that was pouring from the ceiling.
Oh,
So after about 4 hours, I had no, like, I did not have any dry cloth or like piece of clothing around me to clean them. So I lifted one of the records up, and you could just see water like pouring down. And I got pretty frustrated because really wanted to play this next record, but I did not have any surface to clean,
wipe it down.
like to wipe down the record. So I had to like go around and try to ask people who were dancing behind me, behind the DJ booth, for help, but nobody had nobody had any dry clothes on. And it was really funny. Like some of them had some like foxtails hanging off of them, or like latex, but nothing that would help. So it was a pretty funny experience. I think you had to be there to witness what was going on.
I think I know what it was like. I had a similar one go down when I played at Kit Kat Club at the Gegen party.
Mm-hmm.
Same kind of vibe, and it was the middle of the summer, and I told them like you have to turn it. There's the room in the back that has this dragon on that shoots fire, and I told them that they had to turn the dragon on while I was playing. So the whole time, it would spit fire periodically, and it was extremely hot. So same idea, sweat everywhere. And I remember seeing humidity under the screen of my rhythm when I like condensation under it when I took it home. Like everything was soaking wet, and the naked people dancing and the sweat flying off of them. Like the sweat had to be like a combination of their bodily fluids and actual sweat and whatever else. I guess sweat is a bodily fluid, obviously. But you know what I mean.
Yeah,
it was like not just sweat.
Together. Yeah.
Yeah, those kinds of parties are crazy fun.
Yeah.
I haven't been to Pornceptual in a long time. I went to one of the first ones ever when Diego was a resident. I don't know if he's still a resident.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, okay. But that was like, I don't know, when I first moved to Berlin. So it was different music then even. It was more like house music.
Oh yeah, was it about 8 years ago or more?
Like 6 or 7.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
So I think we actually nailed all the questions. So thank you. Is there anything you'd like to announce?
Thank you too. I was just curious about, actually I have a question for you.
Okay.
So when I saw you play live, I guess in 2019, I saw that you're using the Nerd sequencer, and that is also a module that I have that I really enjoy, but I don't have enough space in my rack now. So I have kind of like a little mountain of modules over here that I want to find a new case to be able to use again. But that sequencer is really, really cool, and you can do a lot with it. And I was just curious if you're still using that, and if so, is it your favorite sequencer, or do you have a different favorite?
I do still use it. I do love it. It's not my favorite, only because sometimes it's a little bit of a pain in the ass to program. just with the clicking up and down. So my favorite sequencer is the Industrial Music Electronics Stilson Hammer Mark II. I know there's a Mark III on the way, and it's just very immediate. I also have the Octatrack, the Rene, the Erica drum sequencer, the Moskwa from XAOC, and I don't know, some other sequencers. But the Stilson's definitely my favorite. I love the Nerd sequencer, and it's definitely my favorite for live. I used to use the Octatrack live. The Nerd sequencer replaced it, and it is better. Mainly because you can name your sequences, so you can remember where the hell everything is, as you're aware. And that's actually a feature that I made them put in. But yeah, in the studio, sometimes I'll program the sequence on another sequencer and record it into the Nerd sequencer. I don't know. It's awesome. I would never get rid of it. Like, it might be, if I had to just take one on a desert island, it would probably be the Nerd sequencer because it's by far the most powerful.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah. No complaints there. That's interesting. A question for me. Do you have any more questions for me?
No, that was the main question. And yeah, I guess with the Nerd sequencer, do you ever use this controller?
I don't have a Sega controller.
Okay.
But yeah, it's something I've thought about for sure. Maybe if I buy a Sega Genesis, because I like to play video games a lot, and vintage video games too, so maybe one day. Or if I get my Sega Genesis from my grandma's house in Miami.
Okay, cool.
Have you used it with the controller?
No, I've not used it with the controller, but it is pretty time consuming to input everything, so that's why I was curious if you use the controller in your workflow. But I mean, obviously, you don't have to use it.
Yeah, it's not I definitely want to try it, but what I have seen is Thomas, the guy who makes the Nerd sequencer, has some way to interface it with an Ovation Launchpad, and when he uses it that way, it looks very fast. But I haven't looked into that myself.
Oh yeah, I saw one of them using that at Superbooth with the Novation Launchpad. It's actually, that would be a pretty cool expansion. I want to look into that as well.
I mean, the cool thing now is that it also makes synth sounds. Like the FM synthesis in there is pretty good. Have you tried it?
Not yet.
Yeah, do the update if you haven't. It's cool. Like, really, really good sounding because it has this kind of lo-fi crunch to it. Kind of like the sampling in it, but it's synthesis. So, fuck, I was gonna ask something I totally forgot. What color is your Nerd sequencer?
Black.
Perfect. And yeah, I think that's it for my questions.
Okay, cool. Well, nice chatting with you.
Yes, nice chatting with you as well. Peace out.
Hope you enjoyed that. If you'd like to know who's coming up next on the podcast, you can do that by subscribing to my Patreon. Peace out.